All right, back to more review. Um, this is October 2nd, 2025, and this was my session from today's open. Um, you can see here I'm in a pretty nasty drawdown. I mean, yesterday I just got done doing yesterday's review. Um, I won't go too much into that, but um, I've essentially I'm on a 11 trade losing streak, so I've lost 11 trades in a row, which is pretty tough mentally to deal with. Um, but I am confident that I can pull out of this drawdown. A couple things went wrong today. Um, I think we're gonna look at the trades and come to the conclusion that they did have edge. However, I think just where I was mentally, I wasn't really in the best headspace for managing risk and uh, really assessing all of the aspects of trading. I think uh, to be a good trader on this time frame, to be a scalper with this much size on the board, you really got to be hyper focused on every aspect of the trade. And as the EV is changing throughout the trade, you need to be constantly staying on top of it and you know getting out of positions if they're not winning, or widening your stop on positions you think could win. Um, I think we're going to come to the conclusion that my stops should have been wider today, especially for her where and how I was trading off the open. Uh, I think 8 ticks was just a little too tight. It did save me obviously because there were trades that would have come back on me a lot more without that 8 tick stop loss. Um, but I think just because the average rotation and the volatility off open, I think 10 ticks is a little too tight. Now, there's a couple solutions to that. The biggest one is just don't trade. If the volatility is too high for my size, I either need to size down or just don't trade. Just wait for something to set up. Maybe trade some micros, build a P&L cushion. Like if I could go back and do this session again, I would have traded with micros to start with. Um, One of the conclusions I came away with from a review from a few days ago was that just because price touches an area of interest doesn't mean I should trade it with full size. Um, I have this rule where I only take A plus setups if they involve some sort of area of interest with full size, so two minis. The problem with that thinking is that I just every time price touches an area of interest, I get greedy and I think I can throw on a huge trade, but that's not the case. There has to be some other really good setup taking place at that area of interest. I should not be taking 3 trades on full size like this. That is way too impulsive. It is way too aggressive. Taking a trade on full size should really, really include something sound and concrete, like something that I just cannot walk away from. And I think part of the problem is that I haven't really identified that yet. Um, and maybe uh, one of the solutions to that problem should be identifying what an A plus setup looks for like for me, instead of just swinging every time price touches an area of interest. Because while that area of interest rule does keep me out of trouble, it's when it does happen, when price does trade through one of those levels, I just get greedy and I hit and I just swing so hard. I swing way too hard, which is exactly what I did today. Um, I had a 0% win rate today. I didn't have any winners, just 3 consecutive losses. Um, my average loss was 6.6 ticks, and that's because I got liquidated, which I'm really not proud of. It's been a long time since I've gotten liquidated. In fact, yesterday I should have been liquidated because I thought I had a $500 max loss with my broker, but it turns out I didn't for whatever reason, and I went past that 500. Now I have a solid stop at 1,000, minus 1,000, and I never ended up hitting that yesterday, which I am slightly proud of, although it's hard to be proud of a losing day like that. But today I hit that liquidation threshold, and I got booted off by my broker, which doesn't feel good, especially when it's 2 days in a row. That being said, I do know exactly what I did wrong today. I don't know everything that I did wrong. That's what the point of this review is, and we're going to review each one of these trades. But one big factor that I'm considering is the fact that I did a very, very in-depth review this morning about my trading yesterday at the close. The good news is that's never going to happen again because I made a rule that I'm never going to trade the close again. When I trade the close, I don't have enough time to review it that day, so it has to wait for the next morning before the open. I did that today, and I think what happened was I expended all of my mental and emotional capital in doing that review. And that's a good thing. I really, really want to pour my heart into these reviews and to give everything I have to these reviews. However, that just has the negative consequence of having mental and emotional fatigue after reviewing. So I came into the open today after having done a review for like 2 hours, and I think my tank was empty. I think I had done too much. I had expended too much mental capital, and I was drained, and it affected my decision making. So let's get into the trades. I probably should have my recordings. Let's do that first. Short session today. I think I hit my liquidation after just like 15 minutes. All right. So, trade number 1 is a 8-tick loss. 8-tick loss to the long side. So, real quick, I'll just briefly go over my daily plan for today. Yeah. So, we had a massive daily candle yesterday. We broke all-time highs. My plan was that if we accepted above that prior day high, I would be long biased for a continuation upwards. However, if we breached prior day high and then started accepting below it, I would be short biased. So on the first trade, we were still trading above prior day high, and we came down and tested it. So I went long. Let's watch the replay first, and I will play my narration with it. Back up a little bit first. Case. We got a pretty nice bounce off that area. I'm gonna go ahead and try a long. I'm gonna cut. All right, so I should have cut this trade, and I will show why. So, I do like that we are testing prior day high. So what I'm looking for my bull bias is to come down, test prior day high, and then continue higher. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And it's pretty sound. I don't hate the idea, but the execution was botched, and let me show you why. These are the nearest orders for me to fade into. The problem with that is these orders are too far away. Price is more likely to trade into the fresh orders. So the orders that I'm trading into, there are big orders present on the chart. However, they're too far away. They're like almost 5 points away or something like that. Right? Yeah. Yeah, they're 5 points away from the current price. So if I'm trading into something that's 5 points away, like that is so far away. That's not to say it won't happen, but it's like what's going to happen between then and now? Like what's going to happen between right now and us hitting that 5 points? A lot is going to happen. There's going to be a lot more volatility. Um, and as you'll see, we never actually end up going there. Now it is interesting that we bounced off prior day high to the tick. But as I just mentioned, that does not necessarily mean that I should size up to full size. That's not good enough, especially because there isn't really anything else. Like a prior day high bounce isn't really in my wheelhouse. Um, I could see, I could maybe see a situation where a prior day high bounce would happen, but when it's to the tick like that, that's kind of too good to be true, especially since we were so overextended yesterday. It's like a sell off is kind of inevitable, especially if the open was just an immediate blood sport and like we just bled right off the open. I mean, there's just so much risk to it. There's so much risk in getting long here. Now, there is a long trade here. There is a long trade, but guess what? I've missed it. So let's put in the areas where I entered. I think I got long here, and my exit was like here. So my entry, my exit. Where is the long trade? The long trade is probably right in here. So ideal entry, ideal exit. And why is that? That's because when we did come down here to prior day high, and if I was quicker on my decision making, I probably would have noticed this. But as I just mentioned previously, I had expended all of my mental capital. It's gone. Like I'm not as sharp. I'm not as quick. I'm not as reactionary. I'm just kind of going with the flow at this point, which is not good. I need to be sharp. I need to be at my sharpest. If I wasn't my sharpest, I probably would have noticed that, hey, we're coming down into prior day high. We bounce to the tick. There's these huge sell orders above us. Like we just get these massive sell orders right here. Go long, try to get in as quick as you can and ride it for the couple ticks it's worth. I think I would have got probably a point out of it, maybe 5 ticks, depending on my entry. And that would have been a great trade because we've got solid sell orders right here. They're fresh. They're super fresh, and we're probably gonna push them. By the time I noticed that setup, it was already too late. The setup was over, and I tried to get in after it had already invalidated. If anything, now there were sell order or buy orders against me, so I'm getting in way too late, and it's just the trade is no longer there. Simply put, the trade's not there anymore. So 30-second, minus 8 ticks long. And this was a risk on trade. As odd as the prairie high test is, I don't think the context of I'll even draw just a little diagram here. I think that about covers it. That's a pretty good in-depth narration of this trade. So let's place that there. Let's get into tags. Because they were so far away, I'm not going to tag the big order blocks. I'm only going to tag small order blocks. I did have reclaim favor, and I did have an area of interest, but that's about it. Against me, I had big order blocks and small order blocks. I was also against the trend. We're pretty clearly downtrending at this point. My entry was late and my exit was late. This was an aggressive scalp in a risk on situation. But I don't think the setup was very good. I think the setup itself might be like a C tier setup. It's not very good. I'm missing context. I didn't really have a slip I'm gonna do slip none. I'm gonna say I was pretty. I felt clear about what was happening when I placed this trade. I'm gonna put in between because I didn't have evidence that I was clear. I didn't have any pulse checks. I didn't have any micro trades. I just kind of jumped into it. My emotional tags are all gonna be yellow because I had expended so much of my mental and emotional capacity doing that review, that 2-hour review before this, and I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be trading after I put so much effort into a review like that. I'm gonna yellow star this. I think it was a valid trade. I wish my sizing was different. I wish I did this on a micro first. Had I lost 8 ticks on a micro, it would have been $50 instead of $200, you know. Trade number 2 is an 8-tick loss to the short side. So it looks like we have accepted below prior day high, and now I am short biased. I'm going to back up the recording a little bit and we'll listen to my narration. 5. Looks like that would have came back against me. We're getting that invalidation. I'm looking through 6750. There's 6750. See if we get an overshoot. I'm going to take it. Short 6775. Taking a bit of heat, but that's okay. I would like to see us go to 6550, preferably. Take back some of this reclaim. I'm going to adjust my stop just over that pivot high there. 6975. There's a pretty solid down move. Not a lot behind us, which I like. I want to see this continue lower. I like this setup a lot. I think it's worth holding to 6550, honestly. So I'm going to pause it there. I had just said that I like this setup a lot. Now, I agree with my past self that at this particular point in time, this looks like a good setup. When I entered the trade, it was not a good setup. So when I entered the trade at 67.75, it was not a good setup. I was way too early. I was way too impulsive. This is easily my worst trade of the day, and I'm going to red star it. I do want to break down why that is, so let me go ahead and screenshot it. First things first, I want to put my executions in. So I'm pretty sure I got short, like, what was it? It was 67.50, I'm pretty sure. So my entry was right here, and it was so quick. I just got right into it. And then my exit was right here. My entry, my exit. This was risk on, technically. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the daily chart again. Friday high. And that's Friday low. Then chances are what we just did was we reached above, we came back down, we're retesting before we head lower. Okay. The reason why this was not a good setup at the time of entry was because we were breaking out. Price is breaking out into reclaim. And I'm fighting that. I'm fading a really big breakout. It's okay to fade that, but only after there's a lot of confirmation. Also, my entry is 2 points area of interest. So if my point of interest is prior day high at 69.50, I'm short 67.50. There's 2 points between my entry and the point of interest. It can come back on me 2 points, which is exactly what it did. My ideal entry should have been up here. Ideal entry. All right, so I'm getting some really valuable information here. This had the potential to be an A plus trade, and I would have, if I had just waited for the actual test of prior day high, I would have nailed like a 5 point trade. Because I said when I got in this trade, I was targeting like 65.50 or something like that. Had I gotten in at 69.50, that 65.50 still would have been a very valid area for me to hold to. That's a 4 point trade. If I'm trading at what, $50 per point, I think. What am I? No, I'm trading at $100 per point. If I'm trading at $100 per point, that's a $400 trade right there. That would have put me well over my daily profit. That would have put my account in the green. I would have fixed almost all of those mistakes that I had made the day prior. Um, that would have made my week essentially. But I was way too quick and impulsive, just way, way, way too quick. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything else. Yeah, I think that's good. So this is going to be ironic, but this is a red star trade, but it's an A plus setup, and I'm going to tag it that way. It had big order blocks in my favor. It had small order blocks in my favor. It had reclaim in my favor. Um, it had a liquidity area in my favor. And I also had trend favor because I was trading with the short. So I mean that is a lot of factors of support. Against me, I did also have reclaim against me, but I didn't have any big order blocks against me, or even small ones for that matter. This was just such a good setup, and I botched it. I just floundered the setup. My entry was way too early, and my exit was late. Oh man, that's tough. This is tough. This was an aggressive move to move because I had a clear target in a risk on environment with an area of interest. I was very impulsive on the entry. Uh, I'm gonna tag slip none because it doesn't count. If I'm just jumping into a move, that doesn't count as slip favor. Um, I think my read was very clear on the setup, but my execution was botched. My emotions, I think I was maybe calm. I'm gonna say no. I was discontent. I was not content with my P&L at this point, especially after my first trade was a loss. It just sucks being in that position. And yesterday was a horrible day. And then my patience was red. I was impatient here. I didn't wait for the perfect, not even perfect. I didn't wait for a good retest. I didn't wait for any retest. It didn't test. If we're 2 points away from the area of retest, then that's not a retest. That's not even close. 2 points is a lot. A lot can happen in 2 points. Um, so yeah, as ironic as it sounds to have a red star trade but an A plus setup, that's exactly what happened. Um, it was an excellent setup. I just didn't wait for the confirmation, unfortunately. All right. Ah. So, just to recap, prior day high retest, which I think was an excellent setup. I think I feel much better about the short bias here, while my long bias for the first trade was, according to my system, valid. I think the fact that we had overextended so much the day prior, like just a massive, massive green candle on the daily chart. Um, I just feel so much more confident about the short prior day high retest than I did about the long prior day high retest. And I think this one ended up just giving so much confirmation, and it just looks crystal clear. Like, looking at this, I just have so much clarity on what's happening. Um, and I think while it is really unfortunate that I botched the execution, I am very proud of myself that I identified this setup, because 4 points, man, is like, even though I missed it, even though the dragon escaped from me, I still identified it. I think there is pride in that. Trade number 3 is a 4-tick loss to the short side. And it is also the trade right after this. I tried to get back in because I identified how good this trade was, and unfortunately, this is the trade that liquidated me. If I had just avoided that previous loss, that 8-tick loss, if I had just been a little bit more patient and waited for the retest, and instead I risked 8 ticks on this trade, I would have made 4 points. Like, this would have just been an incredible trade. Um, and I got it. I got the entry. Like, this entry is, what is this? 69.25. We ended up going down to 64. That's more than 5 points. Uh, it's unrealistic to think I would have caught all of that, but I would have at least liked to see 65, 65.50, which is still 4 points. 4 points profit on a 2 lot would have just been, it would have made my day, would have made my week, you know? So, unfortunately, when I got into this trade, I just instantly got liquidated because I couldn't afford the drawdown of 4 ticks. And you'll see that here. We'll attempt this for a try 2. Stop above 70.5. I did not want to see this accept back above prior day high. Yeah, I took that off there. I think that might be my liquidation threshold, unfortunately. Yeah, so you can hear me say how I'm unfortunately done for the day. It comes back and tests again. So even if I got in and had that full 8 ticks, it would have came back on me about 4 ticks, 5 ticks. But then it goes, like, it literally just, it goes. Unfortunately, I end my recording, but I have the chart next to me. I looked at it. We went all the way down to 64 after that. So even though it would have retested one more time, if my risk was 8 ticks and I was in a good frame of mind, you'll see that I tried to get out of it before it hit my stop. I tried to get out of it at 69.75 for a 2-tick loss, because I was so on edge and I was so jittery. But if I had my full mental capability and my full emotional capability, holding through a retest, I would have been able to do it. I would have had no problem with that, especially if I really understood the importance and the edge that I had in this setup. I don't think I understood that when I took this trade. I think I knew something was there. I was like, oh, there's orders down there. We're retesting prior day high. But now that I'm looking at it in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, this is the mother of all setups. This is what I am trading for. This is what I want to nail as a trader. These once a week, once a month setups that are just so good. And I had it. I had it in the I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I was so close to nailing this trade, and it sucks to watch it go without me, but at least I knew it was there. But I didn't know how good it was at the time because I wasn't locked in. I wasn't focused. I wasn't concentrated. I didn't have, all of my cylinders firing at the time, um, which is really sad, honestly. I'll go right until the video ends and then I'll screenshot it. Which just sucks. I was so close to nailing this trade. That's okay. I'm really happy that I identified it. So, my entry was 925, so I think that's like right here. My entry, unfortunately, was here. Actually, no, it wasn't. It's one tick higher. It's like right there. So I'll just read what's on the screen here. This trade could have been incredible. There are so many factors aligning, and we have an area of interest in play. However, because I wasn't patient with my prior attempt, and because I had expended mental capital on that trade, I was not prepared for the actual opportunity. My broker liquidated me, and I had to watch the trade go without me. Broker max loss is not an excuse. I tried to exit this trade prematurely for 2 ticks loss before my liquidity threshold was hit. This is because I had expended my mental capital on the prior trade and I did not have the emotional stamina to hold through a very light pullback, 5 ticks. So the trade came back on me 5 ticks, but it would have paid out 4 points. And that's because I wasn't paying attention to the incredible setup that I had in front of me. So when we talk about fatigue, not only does fatigue make bad trades look good, but it also makes good trades look not as good. You don't realize how good a trade is that you might be in because you're treating them all the same. You're just kind of going through the motions. Your brain is on autopilot, just taking each trade as if it's the same. But you don't realize what you're sitting on. You don't realize that you've just stumbled into an incredible A+ setup, which is very, very frustrating. So let me post that in there. This is also going to be a red star, but with an A+ setup tag because it's so good. It's so good. I'm even going to copy the tags from the last one. So you try to move, A+, risk on, area of interest. I had trend fear, I had a liquidity area. I'll even mark top tick, bottom tick. Because we top ticked that area. Wow, man, what a monster. What a monster trade this could have been. I'm also going to tag this as fear. I was afraid that the trade was coming back on me, so I tried to get out early. On this trade, I do have slip favor, though. So, I mean, this is rare. This is so rare where I was on tilt. All my emotional tags are red. I was not calm. I was not content, and I was not patient. But I had an incredible setup. I had such a good setup in front of me, and I just botched it. I botched the execution. I was way too impatient on the first trade. Daily report card. I'm gonna grade myself based on my goal, and my long term goal still is to narrate every trade, and I did that today. I did exactly that. So if I'm basing today's performance based on whether or not I achieved that goal, the answer is yes, I did. And I think if I had to give myself a grade, um, it might be A minus because while I did accomplish my goal of narrating every trade, I also my performance just flipped. I let that trade go, and I think even when you have as a discretionary trader, you can have a really concrete systematic strategy. But if you're not there, if you're not focused, if you're not locked in, you can really cause damage. And just by being impatient on one trade and having an early entry on one trade, I essentially ruined my entire session and my week. I mean, this is my entire week right here on this session. You know, it sucks, but that just goes to show that you cannot make mistakes. You can't make mistakes when you're scalping like this. You have to nail your entries. You have to be patient. You have to wait until the most perfect possible opportunity. You just can't afford to mess up. Um, The easiest trade, it's hard for me to list an easiest trade because I didn't have any profit today. They were all losers. Um, I think though, in terms of the easiest setup that I attempted, it's got to be the last one, the last trade where I had all those A plus factors. And if I was mentally sharp and I was approaching this from a very objective frame of mind and a clear of any emotions, I think I would have been able to identify, oh my God, this is such an easy trade. And I think I believe in myself. I think I really could have nailed this trade if I was in the perfect frame of mind, but I just wasn't. I spent 2 hours on that review this morning, and I spent another hour reviewing this session, and I'm just I've used all the gas in my tank. I don't have anything else left to give, and I need to be aware of that when I'm trading in the morning. Um, the things that I did good, I narrated. That's the most important thing. That's always going to be the most important thing, is whether or not I achieved my long-term goal, and I did. I narrated every trade today. Um, while my while my risk was very wide today, I think it was justified. I think I was trading large size with large risk, but it was only if it was at a prior or a area of interest. And I think on trade number two, where I entered impulsively, I still had an area of interest. I just didn't wait long enough for it to be tested. So I think in that sense, I was trading within my rules of only using full size on areas of interest. However, the caveat of that is that just because there's an area of interest doesn't mean that I should be taking it with full size. I think it's good to get in the habit of trading those areas of interest with micros on 1/4 size, um, because not every area of interest test is going to be an A plus setup. There's so many other factors that I need to look at. Like if I look at that last trade, for example, sure, I had area of interest, but what else did I have? I had the trend in my favor. We had just top ticked that liquidity area. We had the liquidity area. We had a reclaim below us. We had big order blocks and we had small order blocks below us. I mean, that's what, one, two, three, four, five, six. Six factors of support that I can identify that were in my favor. That's what I need to be looking for. Just because price is trading near an area of interest doesn't mean that I should be swinging at it with full size. Think about it. Even if I took that A plus setup with 1/4 size, that would have been $100 win. $100 win would have still fixed a lot of mistakes from earlier in the session. It's not about how much money I'm going to make from the trade. It's just about taking the trade. Take the trade. That's what matters. The setup quality. Don't focus on where your P&L is, what the session before was like, anything like that. Just setup quality. Is this a good setup? And just focus on that. That's all you need to focus on. Is this a good setup? I think as far as things I need to improve on, I think I kind of just mentioned it. Don't trade full size on every single test of an area of interest. Like let it test, let it play around a couple times. Take a pulse check trade or a 1/4 size trade on it. Don't just sit there hovering on the dom with your two lots waiting for it and then swing at it the moment it gives you it touches that price. Just wait for confirmation and set up quality. Like it's when I'm scalping without those areas of interest, it's very easy for me to wait and be patient. But the dangerous part about the implementing these areas of interest into my trading is like I just want to attack it the moment it shows up on my screen. And if I don't fix that problem soon, then I'm gonna start running into real problems. Um, Obviously, another thing I need to improve on is impulsive entries. I had drilled for many weeks, even you might even be able to say months at this point, doing slip drills, which is essentially just like taking the outer edge of a micro range. What I had learned in trading those slip drills was that I need if I'm gonna be buying the bottom of a range test, I need to wait for at least like 10 seconds of confirmation before I get into it. You miss a lot of opportunities that way because sometimes it just comes and goes and it's gone, but that's okay. It's okay to let those go without you. But the waiting for 10 seconds for a slow, gradual turnaround. So, for example, we get one really sharp green candle that I want to short. I need to wait for at least 10 seconds for those red candles to develop, for sellers to start stepping in. If a green candle spikes and I immediately jump in on short, it can just keep going. There's no sign that it's stopping there. I could just be, catching the brief pause in buyers before more buyers step in. I need to wait for those 10 seconds of slow price action, the volume slowing down, sellers are jumping in, it's slowly starting to retrace, and then it'll probably take back that reclaim. I just can't be jumping into stuff too fast. And if I had used that rule on my trade number 2, it would have saved me so much hassle because let's go look at it. Let's go look at trade number 2. Yeah, if I had waited for that 10-second rule, which is three bars, 3 candles. Let's see. I probably would have gotten an entry price around 68.50, which is an entire point less than what I got. So if I had just waited for confirmation, I would have been able to catch 4 ticks of a better average on my entry, which may have given me enough breathing room to hold through this area of chop. And I probably would have been able to wait for the actual test of the prior day high instead of getting in where I did. So it just depends how you look at it, really. Um, and I think that's it. I don't want to dive too much into things I did wrong. I think I just keep it at that. Stay patient. Don't risk too much on lower tier setups. And just because something tests an area of interest doesn't mean I need to swing at it. Just be patient. Wait for the setup to develop. Wait those 10 seconds before entering. That sort of thing. So I better cut it here. For the summary of today's session, I would really just say like the things I mentioned at the beginning. I'm not terribly disappointed with this session, but I'm also frustrated, and it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to say that. Like, it sucks that I had such a good setup, and I could have fixed so many mistakes had I nailed that setup, but I wasn't patient enough, and that's it's good that I know that. It's so important that I identify what went wrong, and the fact that I wasn't patient on one trade is so important for me to realize, because now next time something like this presents itself, I'm going to think, hey, remember that last time you weren't patient and you ruined your entire session? That's really all it takes to be a good trader, is just to come here, review, and bring those lessons forward into the next session. So that's exactly what I plan on doing.